You know how they say one kiss can change everything? I always thought that was just a line from some cheesy Nollywood movie. That was before I met Adaora. Before I found out that some secrets are buried so deep, they're practically part of the earth. And definitely before I learned that a single kiss could straight up steal 7 days of my life, leaving nothing behind but a black hole in my memory and this creeping dread that won't go away. My name is Chinedu, and I'm telling you my story because I need someone to believe me. Life before Adaora? Simple. Really simple. I was a student at the University of Lagos, basically juggling lectures, fighting for a quiet spot to study, and stretching every last naira to make it through the month. I grew up in a face-me-I-face-you compound in Surulere, which is a whole different universe from the silent, high-fenced streets of Banana Island where she lived. My world was loud. Always the smell of fried plantain in the air. Always the hum of a generator. Hers was a fortress of quiet, perfectly manicured lawns, and the kind of wealth that feels less like money and more like an ancient power. We met at a campus art exhibition. Honestly, I was only there for the free small chops, but then I saw her. She was just standing in front of this painting, completely lost in it. She was captivating. We got to talking, and that was it. We started meeting in secret, in dusty corners of the library, at crowded bus stops, anywhere we thought we wouldn't be seen. She loved hearing stories about my neighborhood, and I was just mesmerized by her. She never acted like she was the daughter of Chief Okafor, a man whose name was whispered in boardrooms all over the country. When she was with me, she was just Ada. But there were signs, little things that didn't make sense at the time, like this heavy, silver bracelet she wore. She never took it off. And sometimes her eyes would get this far away, haunted look, and she'd go quiet for hours. I'd ask her what was wrong, and she'd just force a smile and change the subject. Not all wealth is clean, Chinedu, she told me once, her voice so quiet I could barely hear it. And not all love is safe. I had no idea what she meant. I was just a guy in love. I really should have listened. Getting invited to her father's annual chieftaincy anniversary party felt like a crazy dream. It was my first time inside the walls of that estate. The place was unreal. Priceless artifacts everywhere. Bronze heads from Benin, carved Ikna figures that felt like they were watching you from the shadows. I felt like a complete imposter, a commoner who'd stumbled into a king's court. Adaora found me hiding out in the garden, away from all the powerful people in their expensive clothes. She looked beautiful, but her eyes held a sadness I'd never seen before. "Chinedu, do you trust me?" she asked, and her voice was trembling a little. "You know I do," I said, and I meant it. She reached up, her fingers feeling cold against my cheek, and pulled me closer. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. And then she kissed me. It wasn't passionate or romantic. It was desperate, cold. It tasted of salt, and something else I couldn't place. Something like old earth and regret. That's the last thing I remember. I woke up to the aggressive Lagos sun beating through my window. My head was pounding like a drum, and my mouth was as dry as harmattan dust. My clothes, the nice kaftan I'd borrowed for the party, were ripped and stained with what looked like mud. I staggered out of bed, my whole body aching. I glanced at the calendar on my wall, and my heart just stopped. A full week was gone. 7 days. They had just vanished. My phone was dead. When I finally got it charged, I saw dozens of missed calls. My mom, my friends, all of them frantic with worry. But not a single call from Adaora. Her number wasn't reachable. I panicked. I ran all the way to her house, back to that fortress on Banana Island. The security guards, the same guys who'd let me in a week ago, just stared at me with these cold, hard eyes. "Chief's daughter is not here," one of them said, his voice completely flat. "She has traveled." I knew he was lying. Back in my room, I saw them. On my forearms. Strange dark markings. They weren't tattoos. They looked like they were drawn with charcoal and ash. These intricate symbols I'd never seen before. Then the vision started. Flashes. A dark, circular room. The smell of burning herbs. Chanting in a language I couldn't understand. Deep and guttural. I'd see Adaora's face, streaked with tears, her eyes begging me for something. I'd see her father, his expression like a mask of grim determination. And I saw an old carved wooden object on an altar. A horned figure that just radiated power. It was an Ikna, a symbol of a man's strength. But this one felt wrong. It felt corrupted. I thought I was losing my mind. The missing week was this giant, gaping hole in my life. What did they do to me? What did Adaora do to me? My elderly neighbor, Mama Nkechi, she's one of those old women who sees everything. She cornered me one evening, seeing the panic in my eyes. She looked right at the marks on my arms, and her face went grim. Some families are not bound by blood alone, Chinedu, she said, her voice low and serious. They are bound by pacts. Pacts older than this city. They say Chief Okafor's fortune is not from his businesses. They say it is tied to old spirits. She told me stories I'd only ever heard in whispers, tales of the Ogbanje. Spirit children trapped in a cycle of life and death, bringing grief to their families. She told me about Nthiyuwa, an object, a kind of covenant stone that binds the spirit to this world. They say Adaora is an Ogbanje, Mama Nkechi whispered, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and pity. A spirit that comes and goes. Her family performs rituals to keep her here, to keep her bound to this life. But Chinedu, such rituals demand a price. They always demand a sacrifice. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. An Ogbanje? My Adaora, a spirit child? It sounded like something out of a forgotten folktale. It sounded insane. But what else could explain the lost time? The visions, that cold, hollow feeling that had settled deep inside me, like a piece of my own spirit had been scooped out? I had to know more. I started spending all my time in the university library. But I wasn't studying for my exams. I was digging through old books on Igbo cosmology, on folklore, anything I could find. I read about rituals, about pacts made with spirits to get wealth and power. I learned that an Ikna is a man's life force, but that it can be used for darker things. The visions got clearer. I saw myself lying on the floor of that dark room. I saw Adaora, crying, refusing to be a part of it. I heard her father's voice, sharp as broken glass. It is the only way. A life for a life. His memories for your presence. His vitality for our continued prosperity. A life for a life. His memories for your presence. It all clicked into place. They didn't just wipe my memory. They took something from me. That lost week. It was the price. The price for keeping Adaora tied to this world. Her family's insane wealth, their power. It wasn't from stocks and oil deals. It was built on a terrible, supernatural transaction. An ancient, vampiric ritual. And I was the latest offering. That kiss. It wasn't about love or even betrayal. It was the delivery system. The moment they tethered my life force to their dark secret. A cold fury started burning inside me. They had used me. They used my love for their daughter to fuel their own dark machine. And that look in her eyes just before she kissed me. I finally understood it. It wasn't just sadness. It was guilt. I had to find her. It wasn't about revenge anymore. I just had to know if the Ada I loved was still in there, or if she was just a prisoner in her own body. I used the last of my savings and bought a bus ticket to her ancestral village in the east, a place she'd mentioned once. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot I had. I found the village, a small, sleepy place swallowed by a dense forest. And I found her. She was sitting by a stream, all alone. She looked like a ghost of the girl I knew in Lagos. The designer clothes were gone, replaced with a simple wrapper. But that silver bracelet was still on her wrist. When she saw me, pure terror flooded her eyes. "Chinedu, you can't be here. You have to go. He will find you." "Adaora, what did you do to me?" I asked, my voice breaking. Tears just started streaming down her face. "It's a covenant," she choked out. "An old debt. My great-grandfather. He made a pact. Our family is bound to an Ogbanje spirit. In every generation, one daughter becomes its host. The spirit brings us our fortune, but it wants to return to its own world. So it causes sickness, misfortune. To keep it here, to keep me alive, a sacrifice has to be made every 7 years. A transfer, a week of someone's life. Their energy, it's offered up to appease the spirit and renew the pact." She looked down at her trembling hands. "The kiss, it bound you to the ritual. They took your week to keep me here." Just then, leaves rustled behind us. 2 huge men, the same guards from her Lagos mansion, stepped out of the trees. And behind them, walking slowly, was her father, Chief Okafor. His face was like stone, completely unreadable. "You weren't supposed to remember," he said, his voice calm, which was somehow more terrifying than if he'd been yelling. "The ritual is designed to wipe it all. It seems your spirit is stronger than we anticipated." He looked at me, not with anger, but with a chilling, detached curiosity, like a scientist studying a failed lab rat. "A shame! Now you are a loose end." The men started moving toward me. I looked at Adaora, at the absolute horror on her face, and in that moment, I wasn't afraid. I was just tired. So tired of the secrets, the lies, and the darkness that clung to their money. Before they could grab me, Adaora shot to her feet. "No," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "You will not harm him." She ripped the heavy silver bracelet from her wrist and threw it on the ground between us. "The pact is broken." Chief Okafor's face twisted in pure rage. "You foolish girl. Do you have any idea what you've done? Everything after that is a blur of shouting and chaos. I just remember running, this strange energy pushing me forward as I fled through the forest, leaving the girl I loved behind to face the fallout of breaking a curse that was a century old. I have no idea what happened to her, or her family. Sometimes I wake up in a cold sweat, her face flashing in my mind. The marks on my arm have mostly faded, but I know that a piece of me is still missing, lost forever in that dark room. My life will never be simple again. I know for a fact that dark powers are real, and that some fortunes aren't paid for with money. They're paid for with pieces of people's souls. This is my story. I had to tell someone. Have you ever experienced something you just can't explain? Something that made you question everything? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories about the secrets hiding just beneath the surface of our world, make sure to like and subscribe. You never know what's really out there.